Boy, oh boy. So I was having a great day. Looking forward. Eagles tease the mic'd up from the Super Bowl. They're mic'd up, not the NFL's mic'd up, but they're self-produced. NFL, mic'd up. Eagles are mic'd up from the Super Bowl. Looking forward to seeing that. Aaron Nola was great in spring training yesterday. Castellanos hit a home run. Kepler hit a home run. Feeling good vibes. And then the news comes out about Darius Slay. Just saying one dumb thing after another. And it didn't ruin my day by any means, but it was like, well, why all the good vibes? Why all the good vibes? And then Darius Slay's got to bring in the negative stuff. And I hate rewarding stuff like this with attention, but I know people want to see Darius Slay come back. Not a lot of people right now, but I know previously people were like, leave the door open. And we had talked about it throughout the week, how when Adam Schefter tweeted that Darius Slay was getting released, we were all like, yeah, that's pretty much what we all expected. Slay himself even said in his locker that this was the way it was going to go, which is fine. But then people were like, maybe he's still going to be coming back with the Eagles. And I didn't close the door, but I certainly didn't think it was going to happen. Then Slay talked about how he would be open to coming back to Philadelphia, which I thought was interesting, considering I thought he'd be after his last biggest bag as possible in what would be, self-admittedly, his last year in the NFL. So I kind of swung it back to, maybe he does come back here to Philadelphia. And then he goes on FS1 yesterday, and he's talking to Emmanuel Acho and Chase Daniel. Yeah, former Eagles backup quarterback Chase Daniel, who once said to Drew Brees, I'm here to take your job, bro. Anyway, goes on there and just says one dumb thing after another, including maybe being the first of the offseason to slight Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl champion Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts, a man who has finished second only to Patrick Mahomes in the MVP voting for the regular season. A guy who now has a Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl championship, and pretty much does nothing but win at the NFL level. Not elite. Not elite. I'll give you his list if you haven't gotten it already. Also, there's one thing that I don't have as much of a problem with, and I know Chauncey Gardner-Johnson jumped to his own defense first saying he wasn't talking about Darius Slay, that he was definitely talking about Darius Slay. And it had to do with the Reed Blankenship comment. I felt like he looks at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as a veteran, not a young up-and-coming player. I feel like he looks at Quentin Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship as future players that'll be here for like 10 years. I don't think he looks at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as a guy that's going to be here for 10 years. So when he talks about a veteran presence, or he talks about a leader that Reed Blankenship is, my take on it, context included, was he was talking about like the foreseeable future with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's why he mentioned Reed Blankenship and not so much Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I think context is important there. But I think CJGJ is right to still say, hey, I'm not old by any means. Like, I could be around here for a long time. And I love the idea, absolutely love it, that when he was talking about, when Darius was talking about veterans in the secondary and needing a safety, or Reed Blankenship's the leader, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was like, yeah, remember the time you guys got bounced out in the first round of the playoffs when I wasn't here? In both years I'm here. Oh, what do you know? 2 for 2 and going to Super Bowls with me in the secondary. And I even brought it up yesterday before any of this came up. Even the first Super Bowl, other than Jalen Hurts, the one guy that balled out for 4 quarters was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. The guy that brought the wood, even in the fourth quarter, was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So I love me some CJGJ, okay? Was it overall wrong for Darius Slay to leave him out? Yeah, but I don't think he was considering him as like a young up-and-comer. I think the context with Quentin and Cooper and Reed, I think that was more so the context of where he was going. So I don't think it's a direct slight at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. The thing that's absolutely unforgivable and no explanation is not putting Jalen Hurts in the elite category. The other thing is now, as I was alluding to earlier, the possibility of keeping Darius Slay in Philadelphia. Yeah, nope, not happening. And this is the second dust up with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on social media. A.J. Brown even chimed in at one point and then deleted the tweet. Probably a good idea from him, but it's the internet. It's always out there anyway. Somebody will find it. And that's exactly what went down. And AJ was like, this isn't even in my fight, but how about we get back to a Super Bowl? Like that kind of thing. Good for AJ to take the high road and all of it. But Darius Slay went on to talk about how he would go to a division rival. I don't know if that's a negotiating tactic, but certainly something that I don't want to hear on a long list of things during an interview that I don't want to hear from a guy who was just a team captain on a Super Bowl championship team. To swing me back to the 70% sure, maybe even 80% sure that Slay ain't going to be back for the upcoming season. And this is from a guy, I love Darius Slay. And listening to that yesterday, I was, what? Huh? Please don't be the first person, Slay, to slight Jalen Hurts in the offseason. And then I'm going through clips on the internet and all that stuff and how much he's loving on Jalen Hurts after the Super Bowl. And I'm like, what happened to that? What happened to that? I'll give you his list, by the way, of his top 4, the only elite quarterbacks in his mind coming up. The Super Bowl mic'd up, released by the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. If you haven't seen it yet, I talked about this when the NFL released their mic'd up version of the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl victory. And I was like, do I say spoilers? Like, you know who won, all right? So that's not a spoiler. But I'm going to run through some of my favorite moments of the Eagles mic'd up that was released on YouTube yesterday. It's like 25 minutes, and it is just fantastic. It really just takes you on that sideline with everybody and just lets you ride the wave of emotion. There was one part that I thought everything we had heard from Jalen Hurts, everything we had seen from Jalen Hurts, summed up Jalen Hurts to the best possible way you could do it. Just always looking to go out there and make a play, always being focused, always being a leader, all that. There was one part that of NFL mic'd up, Eagles mic'd up, Super Bowl champions, that made me go, oh, damn, that is the essence of taking nothing for granted. So we'll get into that. Flyers got destroyed by the Winnipeg Jets yesterday, unfortunately. It was not another win over the best team in hockey, but, whatever. We'll talk about Aaron Nola down there in Clearwater, Florida, for the Phillies against the Tampa Bay Rays yesterday. He was magical. And this is where in spring training, these are the rules you got to follow for spring training. If the Phillies perform well, then they're going to be incredible. If they're terrible in spring training, it's spring training. You're working on pitches. You're working on a new stance, new swing path. I don't know. That's the way you do it. That's how you look at spring training. So with yesterday's performance, 6 strikeouts from Aaron Nola, 6 of them coming on the curveball. NL Cy Young. I mean, I don't want to go out too crazy here, but NL Cy Young. I'm gonna go into it with that. All right. So welcome to the show. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag, and it's wonderful to have you along for the ride. Oh, last thing on the Flyers. John Tortorella's post-game press conference, I think, lasted a little over 35 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. Torts was on one. And then he was off as quickly as humanly possible. Let's get into it. First off, does the Darius Slay stuff affect your opinion on whether or not at all, does it affect your opinion that the Eagles should bring him back for yet another year in Philadelphia? Because I think if you're pissing off another teammate, look, I was already not re-signing him. He played well this year, but 34 years old, be 35 in the playoffs next year. Was breaking down throughout the year. It felt like every time you looked over him before the playoffs, he was taking care of a knee injury that just kept getting re-aggravated. I'm good. I'm good. And I think when Howie Roseman talked about, and I've talked about this really ever since the draft, when he talked, or the combine, ever since Howie Roseman said he got to take away from one position to pay other positions, and if you want to bring people back, you got to make hard decisions. Well, I think Darius Slay is going to be one of those somewhat hard decisions when you want to pay somebody like Zach Bond and you want to pay somebody a little bit more, well, a lot more, than you were paying them already in Saquon Barkley, and you still want to try to bring back some other guys that are on this squad, Mekhi Beckham, Milton Williams, and not so much Josh Sweat, but you want to make sure you're saving a couple of bucks here and there. So Darius Slay would obviously be an odd man out, and I don't think it's any accident that he was the first guy released, essentially, by the Philadelphia Eagles. So, where am I at on Darius Slay? As I said, 80% sure now he's not coming back. So I am going to allow these comments to kind of make that decision for me a little bit more. And once you say that you'll sign somewhere else, you'd be open to sign somewhere else. Yeah, that only reiterates what you originally told us, 2 months ago? That as much as you love Philadelphia, you realize it's probably going to be your last year in Philadelphia. Then let's move on to Jalen Hurts. Because Jalen Hurts, I don't know if you remember or not, but Jalen Hurts just won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is him after the game. All smiles, Super Bowl champion hat, Super Bowl champion t-shirt. You know what that looks like to me? That looks like an elite quarterback, kids. Darius Slay, when he was on FS1 yesterday, did not include Jalen Hurts in his elite category. Now, I was going to lose my damn mind if he mentioned Justin Herbert, because as I told you guys, I'm going to lose my damn mind if there's another list that comes out that has Justin Herbert above Jalen Hurts. I'll lose my damn. That's the one quarterback I look at and go, really? Really? Like Josh Allen's a really good quarterback. Just one MVP. Lamar Jackson's got 2 MVPs. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but he's also now the guy that just lost to Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow. Really? We're still on the Joe Burrow kick? I thought they were comparable before this year. Joe Burrow had been to a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow lost the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts had been to a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts lost the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts performed better than Joe Burrow in their Super Bowl losses, unfortunately. I think that these 4 players, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen, are phenomenal quarterbacks. They're wonderful quarterbacks. The only person that even has a conversation about whether or not they could be there with Jalen Hurts is Patrick Mahomes going into this upcoming season. Because Patrick Mahomes does have a history. I know he just got spanked by this Eagles defensive line. I know he just got spanked, their defense, by this Philadelphia Eagles offense. And Patrick Mahomes got outperformed by Jalen Hurts in another Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the first one ended with Jalen Hurts keeping the main thing, Patrick Mahomes keeping the main thing, which was winning. And Jalen Hurts, unfortunately, walking off the field with the famous screen grab shot of him, or the screenshot of him walking off the field in the Chiefs confetti. That's a good list of quarterbacks there. But to not have the guy you just sat next to doing the media circuit after the Super Bowl, to not have Jalen Hurts included. Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback that wins the Super Bowl and gets more slight. Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback that gets slighted for scoring touchdowns. Well, with the toothpick, it wasn't a pass. Shut up. He's scoring touchdowns. I think everyone needs to take a piece of advice from Jalen Hurts and keep the main thing. Are they scoring touchdowns on the drive? Okay. Him scoring touchdowns, does it have anything to do with how they're scoring the touchdown? Yeah, it absolutely does. When you can squat 600 pounds, it helps you get through that line of scrimmage into the end zone. How did they score their first touchdown of the Super Bowl? The tush push. Jalen Hurts is a big part of that tush push. Jalen Hurts' ability to be a quarterback, both physically, both mentally, is pretty superior to most. To not include him in any elite conversation is dumb assery. And I'll go to one more visual aid, people. One more visual aid. Should Jalen Hurts be, should Jalen Hurts be considered an elite quarterback? Let me think. I rest my case. Look, watching the mic'd up yesterday again, reliving the moments and just thinking about Saquon Barkley still having like 25 carries in that game, 26, 27 touches, I forget what it was. But knowing that he was taking a beating and averaging like 2 yards per carry, you can look at the numbers and be like, well, he was a non-factor. Oh, the hell with that. He was an absolute factor. And everything. The biggest point the Jalen Hurts haters had was, I have this terrible fear that Jalen Hurts is going to cost them a Super Bowl where they're going to stop Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts isn't going to be able to perform. He's not going to be able to make the throws. He made the throws. They stopped Saquon Barkley. And Jalen Hurts made the throws. to the tune of being the MVP of the game. Josh Sweat should have been the MVP. Really? You're putting touchdowns in the same category. So Jalen has 3 touchdowns. The other guy, Josh Sweat, with 2.5 sacks. So those are equal? I don't think so. Touchdowns are the main thing. Let's keep the main thing the main thing. I am going to lose my mind as we go through this offseason. And you know what's going to happen. People are going to pull the Micah Parsons. Not this Micah Parsons.
Take away the scoreboard.
But the other Micah Parsons, the Micah Parsons that a couple years ago talked about, is it Hurts or is it the team? And I have no doubt that Jalen Hurts has a superior team than anybody else in the NFL. He is in a phenomenal situation. And if I was a hater, I'd be pointing to that. But unfortunately, I don't practice the haterism. I practice realism. And the real situation is that this is the team Jalen Hurts is on. And oh, look, Jalen Hurts isn't holding this team back. And oh, look, when Jalen Hurts was needed by his team in the biggest possible game you could play in the NFL, the Super Bowl, he was the most valuable player on the football field. That's the only test I need him to pass. And he passed it with flying colors. Passed it with flying colors. And speaking of realism, people always talk, and I've mentioned how Jalen Hurts in the first Super Bowl that he played in, I say first because he's played in 2 now. Brush that aside. The first Super Bowl he played in, I actually would acknowledge the fumble, unlike some other people, that spotted Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs 7 points, and you just can't do that. Don't do that. That's being real. But it's also acknowledging that through the rest of that game, he was damn near perfect. And then also acknowledging that in this most recent Super Bowl, that was the definition of an elite quarterback. Oh, and by the way, he had some plays there to Jahan Dotson. It wasn't all A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. One thing I will say right now about mic'd up before I get into all of it is on that throw he had on that, I can't remember if it was a wheel route or not. It must have been. Saquon was going down the sideline and he hit Saquon. Saquon bobbled a little bit but went down with it. He goes over to Saquon on the sideline after that series and says, if I lead you, we score. And it's like, you just came up with a huge play that you made with your legs because you had to get out of the pocket. And you hit Saquon for whatever it was, a 25-yard gain or 23-yard gain. And he just made that play. And he's thinking, if I would have made a great play instead of a good play, it's a touchdown. Yeah. Okay, fine. Be as hard on yourself as possible. Oh, boy. Boy, oh, boy. By the way, going back to Slay's comments about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, it's so funny how you just go back to last year and you try to remember guys that just did. Yeah, Sidney Brown was playing the safety position. Reed Blankenship was playing the safety position last year for the Eagles, 2 years ago for the Eagles. It is like ridiculous. Terrell Edmonds getting run at safety. Oh, my gosh. Ugh. How terrible was that? Yeah, if you're Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, your ultimate flex is, I've been here 2 years and we've gone to the Super Bowl both. And he's 1-2 in those Super Bowls. Or excuse me, 1-1 in those Super Bowls. That's pretty damn good. So let me know in the comments, does this Darius Slay stuff affect your opinion of whether or not you want him back? The other thing I don't get is he was so touched about being a captain for the Eagles. Slay was. Like, this isn't captain stuff. And not like you don't even have to be a homer. Who does top 4? What are you doing? A Mount Rushmore of quarterback? If you're mentioning elite quarterbacks, how is Jalen Hurts not in that conversation? That's just ridiculous to me. If you're mentioning, and this is where I will say, I understand context, again, is important when you're talking about Reed Blankenship and young guys going forward in that secondary. How do you not mention Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who, by the way, in both the Eagles mic'd up, the NFL's mic'd up, anything you've listened to that's been mic'd up this season, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is talking. And it's not all just trash. It's motivational stuff to his teammates. That's leadership. And let's also not act like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's 100 years old. Like, what's Reed Blankenship now? 25? Reed Blankenship's just 25 years old. He's 26 now. He just turned 26. Look at that. Happy birthday to you, March 2nd, Reed Blankenship. All right. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson ain't that far past it. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous to me. And I couldn't help it, but while I was just rehashing everything in my mind with the Eagles season, and you come away with such a dominant victory, how do you not think of this team as one of the best ever? Just in terms of clutch performances throughout the year, fans complaining that aren't Philadelphia Eagles fans about it being a super team, and they did, a super team that stopped another team from creating a dynasty, and people say it as if it's a slight. Hilarious to me. Yeah. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 1 year older than Reed Blankenship. Obviously should have been included. Now, there were some comments back from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and here's those. Veteran presence is always needed, don't get me wrong, says Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but bro, what vet is needed when young guys can hold their own like Q and Coop, you guys, crazy duo, Reed and me, and the supporting cast, Ringo, Zay, Andre, Sam, Eli, Sydney, Tristan. Stay with the youth, if you ask me. And then Chauncey flexes here by saying the last vet that replaced me, y'all got the door in the wild card round. 100% remember that. File this under things I didn't need in the offseason following a Super Bowl championship. Ugh. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. No mention of Super Bowl MVP, Jalen Hurts. Ugh. So help me God if there's a list that has Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts in this upcoming season. I mean, to me, Jalen Hurts is the king of the castle right now. You're talking about right now what this Eagles team has going forward. Let's talk about the elite quarterbacks. All right, so we're ripping. Well, these are all great quarterbacks. All right, Joe Burrow hasn't done it. Should I hold off on great with Joe Burrow? I've always really liked Joe Burrow, and I think he's phenomenally talented. I think he's been banged up. I think his offensive line sucks. If you're talking about situations, yes, he is better than the situation he is in by far. Jalen Hurts, I will say, is appropriately in the situation that he should be in, because one bad quarterback ruins the whole thing. That's what people just conveniently leave out. Well, he's got a great team. Well, yeah, and he too is great. He's average. And that team ain't so great. They're not blowing out the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I'll tell you that much. Like, that's the other. It wasn't a close game. They dominated. Anyway, actually, I thought that was the perfect example. Yeah, they loaded up to stop Saquon Barkley. Jalen did exactly what he had to do to win, and more. The defense just demolished that Chiefs offensive line, and Steve Spagnuolo's head was spinning. I took away Saquon. What happened? Oh, I guess Jalen's pretty good. Anyway, I like Burrow. I like Mahomes. I like Lamar Jackson. I like Josh Allen. I like all these guys. But the only guy that I would even mention in the same breath as Jalen Hurts right now is Patrick Mahomes. And he's got an uphill climb with some patchwork they got to do there in Kansas City, to say the least. Here's what I always go to. When you go to elite, when you go to great, I take away the ifs. So I don't like to play pretend. I don't like to play fantasy in a different aspect here of fantasy football. Like when you talk about hypotheticals, well, yeah, but if you take Joe Burrow and you put him in this offense, how would that be? You take Lamar Jackson, you put him on this team, how would it be? Well, I don't know, because that's not real. What do you think would happen? Well, it really doesn't matter what you think. It matters what has happened. When I talk about greatness, when I talk about elite, I talk about removing the ifs. And an if here is, if he was on this other team, how would he perform? I don't know. I don't. How do I think he'd do? I think he'd keep doing what he's doing because he's really good. Like, he finds ways to win in any aspect. Need a 20-yard run? Jalen Hurts. Need a 35-yard pass? Jalen Hurts. Like, it's so crazy to me that A.J. Brown missed, 4 games this year? And he still had over 1,000 yards? He still was one of the leaders in yards per reception in the NFL? That's making the most of your opportunities. Jalen Hurts is the only guy I can remember that won a Super Bowl, gets penalized for it, or gets no bump from winning a Super Bowl and winning MVP. Jalen Hurts is the only guy I know that it scores touchdowns and it's held against him. It's ridiculous. Absolutely damn ridiculous. We scored them on the ground. Yeah, did they score? Is scoring good? Are touchdowns good? When Nick Sirianni, I forget who he was just on with. It was they were talking about the tush push at the combine. And Nick Sirianni talked about Jalen Hurts and how they get into the red zone and they feel like they can score. So many teams try to run these different plays in the red zone because they don't have as good a play that the Eagles run. And if they try to run it, they don't run it as well as the Eagles. And a big part of that is Jalen Hurts. It kind of helps when you're trying to get through an offensive and defensive line on the 1 yard line. It kind of helps if you have phenomenal physical abilities, like being able to squat 600 pounds. But yeah, Jalen Hurts sucks. I mean, what am I saying here? To just win a Super Bowl with that guy and to not mention him in the elite category. Bonkers. Absolute bonkers. I'll say it again. Just dumb. I like Darius Slay, but damn, that's dumb. That's a long list of dumb stuff from Slay. All right. On to something a lot more fun to talk about. If you haven't watched the 76ers lately, you're missing a good time. No, I'm kidding. All right. If you haven't watched the mic'd up Eagles version of the Super Bowl victory over the Chiefs, yeah, it's been out for, I don't even know how many hours, 12 hours now. Such a good time. It still gives you chills to hear Merrill's voice all over it. Oh, it's amazing. The anticipation. One of the things they did at the very first thing they did was just Sirianni checking his headset to make sure everybody can hear him. Offense, can you hear me? Defense, can you hear me? He's checking up with the booth, you know. It's cool. It just sets the table for like what's about to come. They did a great job doing that. They come off the field after the pass interference call on A.J. Brown. Everybody's cool. Saquon Barkley yelling at everybody like, stay right here. We're good. We're good. We're good. Absolutely love that. When Jalen Hurts would go off the field, he'd say to Jalen Carter, like, go get me that ball back. You know, just little things like that. The Jalen's passing, 2 ships passing in the night. The camaraderie on this team has blown me away all season long. And then you really see it in this video movie. I don't even know what you want to call it. But it's incredible. Bond telling Nolan Smith that he got to hunt his ass down, hunt Patrick Mahomes down when he gets outside the pocket. That's exactly what Jalen Hunt is doing. It's exactly what Nolan Smith is doing in that game. At the point that Hurts gets sacked, there's before the penalty on the Chiefs late in the first quarter, I think it was, Bond is seen jumping off the bench, grabbing his helmet to like go to work, and then they announce the penalty on the Chiefs to keep the drive going for the Eagles. And Zach Bond just kind of raises his eyebrows and goes like, all right, guess I don't need me yet, and puts his helmet down. But that moment, you could just tell he was ready to pounce. He's like, all right, time to go back to work. Let's do it. Penalty on the Chiefs. All right, damn it, I'll get back out there later. Sirianni, what I didn't catch, this is one of the things that wasn't on the NFL mic'd up, but was on the Eagles. They showed Sirianni on NFL mic'd up counting the sacks. But what they didn't show was the first sack. He like slaps Brandon Graham in the head and just goes, that's one. And I have to be, because Lane Johnson mentioned it in the to the team the night before the Super Bowl. Hey, remember the last time we played this team in a Super Bowl? Their offensive line had 0 on their shirts for 0 sacks. So that had to be present in mind for Nick Sirianni to go over to BG, slap him on his helmet, and just be like, that's one. And then every other one, that's 2. I'm like, he's not going to hit BG on every sack, is he? But as he's counting them on the sideline, it's fantastic. Nakobe Dean was very vocal on the sidelines, addressing the team right before the game, revving them up, getting them going for it, yelling on the sideline throughout the game, we're the best in the business, stuff like that. It was just awesome to see a player who wasn't playing because of injury, but a player that played so well throughout the season to still be present with the team to get him going. There's one point after the Cooper DeJean interception and pretty much everything you saw there, you saw on NFL Mic'd Up, but it was still cool to relive that moment. Zach Bond is just standing there casually on the sidelines. I think it was Nicholas Morrow. And he's standing there, and he's just staring off into the Kansas City Chiefs sideline. And he just says, this team can't hang with us. This team can't hang with us. And the confidence at that point in the game, coupled with the focus that this team had going forward, because one of my major takeaways from NFL Mic'd Up versus this one was just how focused this team stayed. Pedal to the metal, not taking anything for granted the entire time. 17-0, 24-0, pick six, interception, cashing it in for a touchdown. Just stayed focused, pedal to the metal. Saquon Barkley, both versions of Mic'd Up. Stay here. Stay here. Stay focused. Don't be fooled. Thought that was interesting. Don't be fooled by 17-0, 24-0. Don't be fooled by it. That's for everybody else. That's what Saquon's saying to the team throughout the game, with just utter domination by the Eagles. And Saquon's just like, it could all disappear in a second. I get a feeling that like Barkley, that Saquon Barkley, he said he watched the Eagles Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs I think he said he watched it on the plane. But he must have gone back and watched it because he was with everybody else and not taking anything for granted. It was like he was playing for the Eagles in that Super Bowl. Something I didn't catch before, I don't know if it was in the previous version or not, but Nicholas Morrow was the one who the Eagles had just signed. Nicholas Morrow was the one that said to Zach Bond, you're going to get yours. And Bond's like, oh, I'm going to get mine. I'm going to get mine. And then he gets the interception. Barkley kept yelling, play like the score is 0-0. When they were reading A.J. Brown's not emotional intelligence, intelligence, I'm blanking on it now. When they're reading excellence, it's the book of excellence. What the hell is it? Someone will tell me in the chat. Internal excellence? They're reading it on the sideline, and they bring it over to A.J. Brown, and they start reading him a passage, and then Nick Sirianni comes over and he goes, hey, can you read me one of those passages? Eagles get the onside kick. Hurts goes over to Sirianni, and this is the part that I absolutely love. This is my favorite part of the whole thing. Jalen Hurts goes over to Nick Sirianni when Sirianni informs him that Kenny Pickett's going in the game. And or I guess it was Nussmeier that might have told him. Doug Nussmeier say, hey, Pickett's going in, because a lot of times it'll be the position coach that goes over and says that. And he must have gone over. That's when he got up and went over to Sirianni and said, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And Nick Sirianni's like, "Yeah, I'm sure." He's like, "You're sure?" It's like 31-0 at this point. It's like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "I'm sure." And he was sure. Kenny Pickett goes in there. I wonder if part of it was Jalen Hurts. I thought for a second Jalen Hurts should have been on the field for the victory, taking the knee. But him on the sideline, I think, was so much better. Like, sure, it would be great to be there on the field for the Super Bowl victory, but he's broing out with Saquon Barkley. And you saw this before in the previous version, but it was in this one as well. Telling Saquon how valuable he was. You don't know what a difference you've made to this team. You were the difference. He's basically telling Saquon Barkley, in Philly, we always call it the Moses Malone. You're the Moses Malone. You're the guy that came in and was the difference maker to put us over the top. And Saquon just is like trying to be modest about it, and then he just shuts up and listens. Takes in the moment. It's a beautiful moment between those two players. It's awesome. Devontae Smith getting teary-eyed over the Super Bowl victory in his hometown, and Jalen just letting him have that moment. Oh, my God. It was beautiful. I'm a man of high emotions. It makes me emotional in a beautiful way to see these guys embrace the moment the way they're embracing the moment. You didn't really see much between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, as much as you saw in the NFL version of it, but it was still pretty cool. And then this was fantastic. I did not see this anywhere else. This is a big one. And it's one of the last things that you hear on Mic'd Up. We all love Jeff Stoutland. We all love how incredible Jeff Stoutland is, and he is. Jeff Stoutland, just before the final seconds tick off the clock, Jeff Stoutland seeks out Jalen Hurts He throws his arm around him and said, "You were right. You were right." And you just hear Jalen Hurts go, "Yeah." And Jalen Hurts knows exactly what he's talking about. And then Stoutland says, "You told me you'd put rings on my hands." And Jalen Hurts goes, "I'm glad you listened." That is incredible. I get goosebumps watching it. Oh, it's so good. I'll be watching this stuff. Sixers suck. I'll watch this stuff for the next 6-7 months. I'll just, oh my God, I'll just dine on it. So awesome. Howie, of course, embracing Saquon is in it. It's interesting to watch that now, knowing that the contract extension was happening, or know that it happened, and then watch it in this context. It was awesome. Howie said something that, though, I didn't get into this last time I talked about it, but Howie said, "You believed in me." Howie says to Saquon, "You believed in me." Okay. I guess Howie said, "I'm going to build this team. We're going to win the Super Bowl. Trust me." I think Howie's roster construction is a pretty good selling point, and trustworthy, I might add. But either way, it was still an incredible moment. Oh, okay, I left this out. Vaughn, after the first touchdown, said that they got lucky. I agree. That's where I told you guys about my little run-in with Jalen Hunt at the Super Bowl parade, where Jalen Hunt just happened to be walking right past me a couple hours after the parade was all finished. And I just said, I might have been a little tipsy at that point. I might have been off the clock, okay? And Jalen Hunt walks by me. Buddy of mine lives in the same apartment building. And I just go, "That first touchdown was bull." And he keeps smoking his cigar. He goes, "Doesn't matter now." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a fair point. It's a fair point." And guess what? It did matter, though, because apparently Vic Fangio was saying how it was unacceptable. So me and Fangio are on the same page. No. Anyway, but no, the part that I left out was Sirianni losing his mind after the Devontae Smith long touchdown from Jalen Hurts. And all of a sudden, I went back and I go, "Wait, what the hell just happened there?" Because Sirianni's running like down the sideline, like almost Deion Sanders high-stepping. And all of a sudden, he just gets owned. Like he gets pushed off the sideline. And I was like, "What, did he just bump into somebody? What the hell just happened there?" So I went back and I watched it. And Connor Barwin lays out Nick Sirianni when they're celebrating that touchdown from Devontae Smith. Just push it like a celebration, like push, like how about that? Sirianni goes flying onto the field. And it's like, damn. Connor Barwin still got that strength. He might be hipster skinny now, but he got that strength. But that, I can't believe I left that part out. That was an awesome part. But yeah, obviously you'll watch it if you haven't watched it already. It really does bring back all the great feelings. And here's how I watched it yesterday. I watched Eagles Mic'd Up Super Bowl Championship Edition. I watched it after I watched the Sixers get spanked by the Celtics. So the state of mind that I was in craved, I tell you, Eagles conversation. So it happened with Darius Slay making some dumb comments. Then I watched the Sixers. Then I did the postcast on Locked On Sports Philadelphia. And then went upstairs, poured myself a drink, sat back, and just relived the incredible moments of the Super Bowl. And, some people might be in the school of, move on, it's the Super Bowl's over, now it's about building the next one. Yeah, well, they just signed Saquon Barkley to an extension. They just brought back the number one priority of the offseason, which is Zach Bond. I'm gonna keep dining on the Super Bowl. I'm just gonna more Super Bowl. Thank you. Just gonna keep doing that for a while. Phillies will report. Phillies actually have their opener in 20 days. How about that? That kind of happened quick. Speaking of the number 20, there's only 20 games left in the 76ers season. And when I say only, I still feel like it's an eternity. So maybe I shouldn't say only. a couple of things we have to do on Locked On Sports Postcast now. A couple of segments that the bosses there and introduced there, where they want to do a player of the game, they want to do a turning point of the game, and they want to do what you'll be talking about tomorrow. Player of the game for me, I'm always going to give it to a Sixer. I can't ever give it to like a Celtic, for instance. Kelly Oubre, 27 points. Good for him. Turning point of the game. This one's interesting. Is the turning point of the game, is it when the Sixers pulled it within 10 in the third quarter? And then, what am I saying? You didn't watch the game. The Sixers pulled it within 10 in the third quarter. And then the Celtics went on a 10-2 run to close out the third quarter. Final 2 minutes, they go on a 10-2 run to close it out. After the game, even Nick Nurse said, that was probably the turning point of the game. Was that the turning point of the game? Or was the turning point of the game 8 years ago when Danny Ainge fleeced Collars Colangelo with the Markelle Fultz Jason Tatum thing? Was it then? I think it was then. It was more than a turning point of the game. It was a turning point of the franchises. So let's go back to that. What you'll be talking about today? I'll tell you what you'll probably be talking about today. You'll probably be talking about the Eagles mic'd up. You'll probably be talking about Darius Slay. You'll probably be talking about, the Sixers lost. Good. They still have 2 games against the Wizards this year. They still have 2 games against the Raptors this year. Those teams are fighting with to be the worst in the NBA. They're not going to catch the Wizards. They might catch the Raptors. That's where we're at. That's where we're at with the Sixers. Anyway, Flyers lost last night. That sucks. Aaron Nola in spring training yesterday. Absolutely dominant. Curveball, thing of beauty. Knuckle curve was working fantastic for him yesterday. Unfortunately for the Phillies, they took the loss. 5-4 to the Tampa Bay Rays. In total, Aaron Nola went 3 innings, just 2 hits, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. How about that? 54 pitches, 32 were for strikes. Jose Alvarado gave up a hit and a walk and 3 strikeouts in his inning of work. Orion Kerkering got an inning of work. He got 2 strikeouts in his inning. Kuno didn't do so great for himself. Joel Kuno. No bueno. Anyway, that's the Phillies report for you today. Should I play John Tortorella's? No, I'm looking at it right now. It was 38 seconds. 38 seconds. Not great. Flyers lost 4-1. Matvei Mishkov got his 20th goal of the season. So good for the Russian rookie. Good for him. Let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Want to go to the concert? Want to go to the comedy show? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get $20 off your first purchase. Also, don't forget to use the Game Time Picks feature, which allows you to filter out all the fluff and get right down to it. The best seats at the best prices on the Game Time app. On the Game Time app right now, I did this last week. Let's update it. Okay. Right now, if you wanted to go to the Sixers-Utah Jazz game Sunday night at 7:30, that would be a whopping $4 to get into the game. So they went up from $2. Wow. Damn. So that's what you got going on with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. How about Sky Motorcars? SkyMotorcars.com. Check out Brett's amazing inventory at SkyMotorcars.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you guys are doing on this fine Friday morning. Good Lord, already Friday. Going to be some great weather coming up next week, by the way. Can't wait for it. Jason A., good morning. Why Niners Wine? Hello. Howie's 101. Zig when everybody's zagging. Hell yeah. April. Good morning, April. Sean Gillespie, what's going on? April, Slay is all about the soundbite. He talks before he thinks. Yep. Shoot. Sean Kilrain, what's going on? Good morning. Sean Gillespie. Slay running his mouth again. Slay is a sucker. CJ DJ, I think GJ, is not wrong. Remember, Slay went on the Ops podcast laughing at CJ. Yes, I did. That's what I was referencing earlier when I said this isn't the first time. Why are you saying DJ? CJ GJ. Gardner-Johnson. Darkwing Ducky. If they make a splash at edge rusher, I think you can roll with the secondary as is. Yeah. I will say one thing on that. I know there's some conversation about Hassan Reddick potentially coming back to the Eagles. I think mostly with the departure, knowing that it was all about getting that new deal now, would Hassan Reddick have been the same distraction here in Philadelphia? Like, did Howie Roseman even foresee that and just get rid of him? Because the evidence would suggest yes, obviously. But if it was all about the money and not anything where Vic Fangio didn't like the player, where Howie was tired of the player, I don't know. If it was all about money and he can come back here on a decent deal, then hell yeah, I want to be all about that, bringing Hassan Reddick back. But I'm interested. I'm interested just to see. It probably was all about the money. It most likely was. So if there's a decent deal, team friendly, and you can get him here, I'd obviously want him back here in Philadelphia. Sean Coach, saw that mic'd up. It was awesome to get everything that was said on the field, especially Ball and Farzy. Was there one more thing that I left out with Ball? I mentioned this team ain't messing with us. That was pretty awesome. Oh, Ball. Oh, I did leave this out. Bond's on the sideline. I think he was talking to a Jomo. Bond says, I'm glad about Jalen Hurts. I'm glad that MFer is on our team. Got lucky on the first touchdown. I said that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hit that. But Sean, yeah, it is awesome. I hope we addressing running back and tight end in the draft. They're heavy at that position. Yeah, tight end. They already hosted blanking on his name. They've hosted a couple tight ends already. Dilla Bosa, what's going on? I agree, Darkwing. We need edge. Mac, Bosa, Hendrickson. That's right, Hendrickson, permission to seek a trade. Boy, oh boy. Is something wrong with leaving gracefully, especially after winning a dominant Super Bowl, says Sean Gillespie. Right? No, move on from Slay. He got that ring. Next man up mentality, Farzy. Yeah, there you go. Sean Gillespie, I wanted to disrespect Jalen to continue. Jalen thrives on it. Yeah, keep disrespecting Jalen. He thrives on it. Right, good point. That's the Jordan Mailata philosophy. Jeff, what's going on, man? Morning, Farzy. DK Metcalf being traded, maybe to Cincinnati or Baltimore. Don't look now. But March Madness is around the corner. St. John's with Patino looks great. Ranks 6th in the country. How about that? Brian, love you. Love you, Farzy. Your takes are spot on. Godspeed. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Just keeping it real, brother. Just keeping it real. Most valuable person was Vic Fangio. Says, why Niners wine? Haters gonna hate, but he is the number one reason for the win. You know, it almost gets lost in this. Like his first NFL job with the first professional coaching job with the Philadelphia Stars. He's over at the Palladium crushing chicken wings, okay? Starts his career. And then here he is, a Super Bowl champion defensive coordinator. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I played this yesterday, but it's worth another play. Yesterday, when we were talking about Zach Bond's deal, it made me go back to this quote from Vic Fangio when he was asked about what is it in Zach Bond, like how is this success? How is he able to have this much success here as opposed to his time in New Orleans?
I don't know. It's when I evaluate players, there's no checkbox. Things you check off. You just watch the tape, watch the movement patterns, watch the player play, and Howie brought him up to me first, but he had a vision for him as a backup outside linebacker, special teams demon. And after I watched it, I said, no, I think he's an inside linebacker. And luckily, it hit.
So that's still funny to me. Luckily, it hit. Oh, it hit. $51 million. One of the highest paid linebackers in the game, man. Pretty awesome. Don't want Slay back now, says Sean Gillespie. There you go. Dilip Farzi, what's your pick next year for NFC and AFC championship games? I couldn't tell you AFC, but right now, it's hard not to still pick the Chiefs. Like, could they be on the downswing? They certainly could. Look, I really like Joe Burrow as a quarterback. I always think he can lead them back, the Bengals, but they got a lot of things they got to correct, and it looks like people are jumping off that ship. The Bills are always a threat. I mean, would Chiefs-Bills surprise anybody? No. The Eagles are the class of the NFC. The Eagles are the class of the NFC. And I've said this a number of times through the Super Bowl, so those that catch me regularly, I'm sorry to repeat this, but I have never regretted a take ever. But picking the Eagles to win a close Super Bowl game as opposed to what I was really feeling, which was a blowout, not picking that blowout, kicking myself for it. Eagles, right now, if I had to pick, the Lions just got to get healthy, and they're a pretty damn good football team. Do they come back with a vengeance? I'll just say the Lions. I'll say the Lions for now. Oh, one thing, Minnesota Vikings. I'll say this about the Minnesota Vikings. I was talking to a Vikings fan recently, believe it or not, and they were like, how do you feel about who was it? Oh, my God, it was my mailman. Yeah, he was like, I'm a Vikings fan. And I'm like, well, how'd that happen? And I've heard this from a couple of people. In Bethlehem, PA, for whatever reason, they would have like Vikings games on on more often than not. It was like a similar Cowboys thing, but not nearly the exposure nationwide. But anyway, this guy would watch it there, and he was a Vikings fan. And he said, what do you think about McCarthy? And I was like, well, here's what you got to be feeling. If you're a Vikings fan, you got to be feeling fantastic that Sam Darnold, a guy that's failed in multiple places in his NFL career, had so much success in just an all of a sudden thrust into the throes of starting and led that team into the playoffs. So if you're a, top pick like McCarthy, for instance, and you're going to get thrown into that again this upcoming season, you got to be feeling pretty good that another guy did it that failed in other systems, was able to have success in Minnesota. Young guy, goes through training camp. They drafted him specifically, for the reason to play with that team. You got to be feeling pretty good about what that offense could do in the upcoming season. Not saying NFC Championship by any means, but still saying they could be pretty good in the NFC. Jalen Hurts wanted to stay in the game and run up the score on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Jalen wanted to completely end KC. That was fantastic. Doughboy. The real Doughboy? What's happening? As a fan of Howie Roseman, should give Big Play Slay a 1-year deal so we can retire as an Eagle. It's more than right, but it's all business as well. Howie Roseman needs to use Bryce Huff to move up in the draft. Yeah, sure. Use him as a sweetener. If you can. I think he's not a sweetener. He's a bitter. I don't know. Oh, interesting. Jeff, top 3 quarterbacks ever. Who you got, Farzi? Montana, Brady, then Mahomes. Montana 4 for 4 Super Bowls. Never threw an interception in a Super Bowl. Love Montana. I mean, I watched the Kansas City Chief Joe Montana probably more than I watched the San Francisco 49er Joe Montana live and in action. I've gone back and watched plenty of Joe Montana. Love Joe Montana. But, I mean, forget about quarterback. Like, Tom Brady might be the greatest American athlete ever. The thing that's so amazing. Now, Montana won without Rice. He won 1 without Rice or 2 without? I think he won 1 without Rice. So obviously already a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But the thing that's so amazing about Tom Brady is that you think about the Patriots being made over and over and over again in his time there. And the only other consistent thing is Bill Belichick. You think about different coordinators he had, obviously different teammates he had, and just winning. Leaves, goes to Tampa Bay, win. Like, that's amazing. That's absolutely incredible. I put Brady at number 1. I have Montana at number 2. I don't know. I can't go number 3 right now, but those would be my top 2. Mahomes would probably be number 3. Jalen Hurts number 4. No, I'm kidding. All right. This is all time. This isn't right now, obviously. Don't worry, Jalen's taking notes, says April. I love it. Slay is mad because Hurts tore him apart in training camp. He's still got that one pick. No, Slay. Let's move on. Thank you, North. I pray that Howie can re-sign Becton, as do I. Although, I'm telling you again, if it came down to Milton Williams or Mekhi Becton, I'm taking Milton Williams. I want Milton Williams still on this team. I've told you guys many times, I just feel, no, okay, you draft an offensive lineman, Jeff Stoutland's here. Pixie dust, you're an all-pro. Emotional intelligence. Sorry, that's not the name of the book. Inner excellence. Thank you, Dillip. That was the T-Bro. Inner excellence. Thank you. Hollywood Hogan. Great name. Slay upset because he got kicked to the curb with 1 year left. Maybe. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Eagles happy. I'm hyper like a kid with candy every time I see Sirianni. Every time you see a Sirianni lookalike in church, Sean? That's funny. William Magro, it was great. It was great. Raj, what's going on? Slay always put his foot in his mouth. Look the type of statements he makes. With Parsons on the podcast, they're both ignorant. Sixers are dead to me, says William. Yeah, well, the Sixers are dead. That's a funny thing about that. Oh, man, Reggie Miller last night during the game, because the game was on a national audience, because, you want the world to see how bad you are. He was leaning into the Sixers and like $800 million that they spent in the offseason for 3 guys that aren't playing. Now, Maxey, you shut your mouth. Not Maxey needs to shut his mouth. When you rip Maxey for the money, you shut your mouth, because Maxey ain't worth the rip. Doesn't deserve the rip. No rip for Maxey. But that's a lot of money, man. That's just sitting there on the bench. Also, Jared McCain was on the bench as well in Boston last night. SC Birds fan, 803. I like Ringo. He's a little tight-hipped. Yeah, okay. But he's got speed to make up for it. Swing those hips open, brother. Mingo called blowout. I did call Hurts MVP. I did say Hurts was going to be the MVP, but good for you. Lions are really friggin' good. They are. Lions, Rams, Packers, Harris skins. Gross. Wine Niners, wine. And Vikings all have a shot to make a championship game. Everyone else is rebuilding. Good luck in 2026. Montana was Brady before Brady. Absolutely. Can't put Montana above Brady, says Mangro and Slagger. Although there was the cheating, but if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And they did right. There's cheaters, and then there's people that aren't getting caught yet. That's the way I look at it. Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Farzy Show on the YouTube channel, Farzy Show. Make sure you guys do that. Make sure you like and subscribe to JAKIB Media. Make sure you like and subscribe to Locked On Sports Philadelphia as well. My name is Mark Farzetta. Hey, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I won't see you till Sunday. On Sunday, I got the 76ers postcast. After that game, there'll only be 19 games left in the year, so that's cool. Also, hey, I got the Philadelphia Wings game coming up tomorrow. Who do the Wings have tomorrow? Wings got the Albany Firewolves at 7 o'clock. Yours truly will be on the microphone as your public address announcer for your Philadelphia Wings. Have a blast doing that. Get your tickets at wingslax.com. Have a great weekend if I don't see you, everybody. Be back with you guys Sunday night for the Locked On 76ers postcast on the Locked On Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Back with you guys Monday morning for the Farzy Show here on the Farzy Show YouTube channel and JAKIB Media as well. Catch you guys Monday at least. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. I'm Mark Farzetta.
Well, that's pretty dope.